Hello, welcome to today's episode of Confessions of a Cleaning Business Owner. I'm Louise Trehearn here with Diane, and today we're going to be talking about, will it get easier to recruit? So I think it's always good to put this in context because people can listen to these podcasts at all different times. So right now we are at the end of January 2025, and nothing's changed yet here in the UK, has it? But there's a lot of change looming that's about to kick in April. So Diane, I'm going to let you talk through what's about to happen and what are we seeing really nowish in preparation for those changes.
Yeah, there's a lot of scared and possibly angry business owners out there right now, aren't there? Worrying and trying to plan for the changes that are coming in April this year, so April 2025. So first of all, employers' national insurance is going up. It already gone up and now it's going up again. There are some mitigating things around that, which we'll talk about. But yeah, basically the cost of employing is going to go up considerably, and a lot of people are scared about it. And there's also quite a lot of employment law changes that are either proposed or are actually set to come in. Particularly one that I know is worrying a lot of business owners is SSP, statutory sick pay from day one. So yeah, I think there's a lot of fear, isn't there, in the employment market at the moment. And a lot of the big employers, so Sainsbury's actually have recently announced they're closing all their cafes, and they were probably not making much of a profit anyway, a bit of a loss leader, if you like, for the supermarket chain. And they're very labour intensive, aren't they? So they've made the decision to close them.
Didn't stop at the cafes. They were also closing down their patisseries and all the counters. Because if you think a meat counter requires a lot from one person on every single one, you can bulk do it in a factory and you need a lot less manpower.
Yeah. So what that's going to do is, and we think about the self-checkouts, supermarkets have really got on board with those and they're increasing. And there's a reason for that. It's because paying people to do work is expensive. So it's going to change a lot of the labour market, and businesses are going to have to make big decisions. And if we see those big supermarkets as an example making those decisions, as small business owners, where do we stand, especially in cleaning? Because we can't have self-cleaning houses, sadly.
I think you're right. And I think where we stand at the moment, it's the uncertainty. So every business owner in every industry is going, can I get rid of some headcount? Can I automate? Like nobody wants to get rid of staff, but you're going, okay, how much is this going to cost me? Because I know what's definitely coming in April. I know what that's going to cost me, and that's going up. And even if you can lump that, you're going, it's about to get worse. And so I think it's that uncertainty. And what we're seeing is I'm definitely seeing this in my business as well. Let's just wait. Let's just see what's going to happen. And we're seeing this across the industry, like across all industries. A lot of the big employers are like, actually, let's just wait. Let's not put a push on recruitment, particularly if they're unskilled jobs, or I don't think cleaning's unskilled, but deemed unskilled jobs, readily replaceable. If you can automate, if you can diversify into another area where you're not so labor intensive, people are, and they're getting, eventually what will happen, it's not that they're getting rid of staff, but if they're not recruiting, anyone that naturally leaves or loses their job or anything that happens, you end up looking for jobs. So the pool of which we can get candidates from gets bigger.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, for our industry, this could be a benefit. And I remember sort of post-COVID when it was horrific to recruit, wasn't it? It was just so hard to recruit, and I think it was a combination of people leaving the industry and Brexit as well. People left the hospitality industry, were very affected by Brexit, and they started then taking on the people we would normally have hired, went into hospitality and the hotel industry particularly. Are we going to kind of see that sort of similar thing where people are just going to move around into different industries, and therefore the cleaning industry could benefit from all this? Because if people are now not being employed by the supermarket, in the cafe or on the patisserie counter, or whatever it is that they were doing in the supermarket, are they now going to be able to come and work for us?
I don't see. This is the thing. I think it's an interesting situation. Potentially, yes. The more fluidity, the better. But we know, I can't remember exactly what the stats are, but isn't about a third of cleaning jobs in the UK across commercial and domestic everywhere, there's about a third are empty. People
Yeah.
cannot, and this might have been from 2 years ago, but we are still massively understaffed in the entire industry. So the demand is there for good staff. If we get the chance to snap them up, of course we will. But I can't see it changing that much because the vacancies in the industry are just humongous, aren't they?
And do you think there's just a moment here then that we just all hold our breath and see how this pans out before making decisions as to whether to hire? Or actually, is the reality that if we want to continue to grow our businesses, we can't replace them with technology. So we have to carry on recruiting if we want to grow. And the demand is still there, isn't there, for a service? Maybe we're quite lucky in our industry that it is so labour intensive.
I think it's a really interesting one because just recruiting, no element of running a business acts in isolation. I think we've said that before. So recruitment's an interesting one. We are going to struggle to recruit. Maybe it'll get slightly easier, but we already know that across the industry, we are still going to have too many vacancies. And I think if we were able on an individual level to recognize the whole industry and that there's not enough cleaners, then what you would do is go, right, there's too much demand. Let's reduce demand by putting up prices and let's make the most of this. So I can't recruit enough good staff. Yes, it's getting a bit easier, but actually let's put up prices to curb demand. The problem is that people on an individual level, so in economics it's micro and macro, but on an individual level, you don't understand the bigger picture because you can't see what every other of the hundreds of thousands of companies are doing. And so it's really hard on an individual level to respond to the economic pressures.
So are you saying really that actually we should go back to cleaning being an actual real luxury and only those that are well off enough to afford it should be able to have a cleaner? Because that's where that, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but that's where that goes, isn't it?
Only if you could see the bigger picture. But what's
Mm.
going to happen is there'll be individuals that go, I can only charge X in my area. I can only charge
Yeah.
£20 in my area. They will hit capacity. They can't recruit. They're limited at that point. And so you just cannot afford to recruit and have staff at £20 an hour. So what will happen is only those that can see the bigger picture, that are prepared to then go and put their prices up to understand that there is more demand out there, then they will be able to recruit. And so you've almost got to be able to understand and have confidence that there is so much demand out there. And I think people on an individual level, we've talked about this before, they lack in confidence. I can't charge that. I'm not worth that. All of these things. So they don't see the bigger picture, and therefore there's just too much demand for them.
And do you think that, I suppose, we're in that position where we see lots of businesses in the industry, whether that, yes, this is our own, but we also, have the chance to interact with lots of other cleaning business owners, and we see their demand, we see their struggles to recruit. And actually, it's very rare, apart from people starting out, interestingly enough, but people that are established, it's very rare that they need help with their marketing. Sometimes they need help with their selling in terms of selling at a higher price, but it's very rare they need more leads coming in. But actually, they need more recruits coming in. That's where they usually struggle. So actually, that backs that up, doesn't it? That the demand is there, but we don't all see the bigger picture. We can't see the bigger. We're in a privileged position of seeing all these different businesses, but most people only see their own, and that's why you get the things. I can't charge that in my area. My customers wouldn't pay that, or even I wouldn't want to charge my customers like that because they wouldn't be able to afford me anymore, and that doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. So, like, if I look at my business, it's not unusual that we could go, oh my gosh, we don't have enough work. And definitely at the beginning of this year, we were like, we need more work. Within 1 week, we were like, oh my goodness, the staff have gone off sick, X, Y, and Z. I actually didn't start advertising more. Work is going to pour in anyway, because we've already done the background work. But what I find is I might want to market for 3 months a year, probably every 2 years. I want about 3 months of marketing every 2 years is all I need to do. And ultimately, if I didn't do anything for those 3 months, if I just held my nerve and went, actually, we'll be fine, I would not have to do a thing. If I'm honest, that's what I do most of the time. I'm just like, yeah, well, it's a seesaw. We'll be fine. But again, I think people don't see, we're very lucky to see the bigger picture because we do so much. It is the great network of the DCBN. which gives you confidence to go, I'm going to ride it out. It's fine. It's not me. It's the time of year. It's whatever's happening in the economy. I think, yeah, there's a lot of information that the problem is we all make decisions based on incomplete information. If we all had the amount of information that maybe you and I have or that is out there, we would probably make different decisions.
Yeah. And do you, like me, you see some of our members who are now charging more than us, and kind of going,
No. Oh, I haven't.
yeah,
Who's charging more than
yeah.
me?
I
My
was
aim's always
going to
to be
tell you,
top.
but some of them are. Yeah, absolutely.
Are they? Wow. Give me 2 months. Give me 2 months. Prices are about to go up. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But
no.
but you're right that putting the prices up is a classic way of curbing demand. And I remember we did this when we couldn't recruit post COVID. We we talked about this before. We changed our minimum fortnightly to 3 hours from 2 hours. We'll do 2 hours weekly, but we won't do 2 hours any less than weekly now. We changed it to 3 hours, and it was a bold decision, it felt like at the time, because we were like, we're going to lose a lot of customers, but we had no choice. And actually we didn't lose as many as we needed to when we were actually still looking at demand. So there are lots of ways of curbing that demand, aren't there?
So there's another thing as well that I think comes into play. So one of the things that is one of the ethoses of Labour who we've got in government at the moment is that I think they want to get people back to work because the welfare costs too much. They want to get people back to work. Now, the problem for a lot of people, if I look at a lot of my staff, they're often single mums, they're the main breadwinner, and they've got it's too expensive to pay for before school and after school club. So they've really got to work within school hours. Now, there's a big push, and if we look at the labour law changes that are coming in, it's hard when your party's called Labour and we're talking about employment law changes, what we're talking about. And one of the things they've said is that you've got to give flexibility to your staff unless there's a good reason not to. Now, I say we, communally as the cleaning industry, we have always offered flexibility. You can work part-time, school hour jobs, you can do all of that. The reality for the kind of people that are looking for jobs and to get into cleaning is actually they're not being offered the flexible jobs that maybe the technical director or the operations director of other bigger companies are being offered. And so while there is more of a push towards flexible working, I would say looking at the kind of people we're recruiting from, there isn't that availability for them. And I think the cleaning industry, particularly the domestic cleaning industry, continues to be outstanding in offering that flexibility.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the key things about our industry, the domestic cleaning industry, is that flexibility around family. And, I think most of the DCBM members that I come across are like, oh yeah, we let them have time off for the nativity play and sports day. And of course, we're flexible around, hospital appointments and that sort of thing. It's just a natural part of how we do things. And yeah, we have to have boundaries, of course we do, and we have to have ways of working that work for the business as well, but we have to be flexible because it's the nature of our workforce, isn't it? Whereas in the commercial sector, for example, it's a lot more rigid as to when you have to be in certain places, isn't it? You can't move clients around quite so much as you can with domestic cleaning because an office or a shop or whatever it is, the business that you're cleaning has to be open next day, and you can't move things around in the same way.
Yeah. So I think in terms of I definitely know that a lot of people come to us for that flexibility. I think that will continue to be a great case. So overall, though, I do think it will get easier. I think there's going to be more candidates available. So I'm gonna caveat this. I think as ever, it's a double-edged sword. I think it will get easier to recruit. The downside is it's going to get more expensive to recruit. So I don't know if you've seen this, but Indeed are really cracking down on free recruitment. Like I've now got to the stage where they'll let me do one free advert every 2 weeks. But you try running a cleaning business on one free advert every 2 weeks. Like that's not a lot at all. So that's got more expensive. The costs of taking someone on and making a mistake, that's got more expensive. So that's a bit of a problem. So, and I think a lot of industries are going to find this now. So because if you take someone on and get rid of them quickly, you could end up it being a lot more expensive. Everybody's going to do that. They're going to have a little bit more fear around taking people on. So I think for those of us that are experienced recruiters that have the processes in place that can cope with that, then it's going to be fine. And for myself, I go, we will be fine. I think it's going to become a little bit scarier for employers.
Yeah, I think is the old adage of, hire slowly and fire fast is going to come into play quite a lot. And I think that it might be easier to recruit, but I think we're going to have to be just a lot more careful. Because, the consequences of hiring wrong, yes, they could be expensive because of the cost of recruiting, but also there could be another cost of, sick pay, actually getting taken to a tribunal for something that you've done wrong, because it's got easier to recruit, so you take on more people, and that's when people start to make mistakes, isn't it? When they're growing too quickly, they've not got the proper contracts in place. I still hear employers who don't realize you have to have a contract in place on their first day. They still think they've got 30 days to do it, and it's not true. You're breaking the law by not giving them proper written terms and conditions on their first day of employment.
And obviously, you've said about tribunals. They don't have to take you to tribunal now because there's new things coming in that you don't even have to be taken to tribunal. Is going to be enforced outside of tribunal. So, yeah, you've got to be hot as an employer now. It's going to force employers to up their game, to really get educated, to really know what they're doing. And then you're fine and you're flying. And I think for those of us that know the game and understand it, I say game, I think all business is a game. I think it's going to become pretty nice actually in the cleaning industry.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time, because those of us that have, either earned our stripes, if you like, in the industry, and we've got that knowledge, or that are tapping into the knowledge that is out there, things like the DCBN, we're going to be sort of standing in good stead, really, that it's an opportunity to grow our businesses, because it's been so hard to recruit. I see this as a real opportunity, so long as you understand you've just got to take that little bit more care, because there's a little bit of a risk out there. When it comes to the extra cost of employing, that's just a case of understanding those costs, isn't it? And setting your prices accordingly. And yeah, prices are definitely going up in April.
And there's one other thing. So our next podcast is called Can I Swap to the Agency Model? Now you and I have talked about this, and actually there's some real merits because it's getting so expensive to have staff. I think what we're going to see is a lot of business owners going, right, I'm going to swap to the agency model. And if you want to do that, we will support you doing that. But the agency model doesn't benefit the staff necessarily. Therefore, there's going to be a lot of staff that are being pushed towards the agency model. For those that stay on the employment model, again, they are going to find it much easier to recruit because traditionally you can get exploited a lot more on the agency model. And a candidates, aren't keen on that, as quite a few of them aren't, then they will move to the employers where they get treated much fairer, much better, much more protection. They've got their sick pay and everything else. You're going to see, if you stick in employment, there's a major benefit to doing that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it in the next podcast, obviously, but there are some ways of doing the agency model that doesn't involve exploiting the actual cleaners. You can do it and still be the best in the industry, can't you? But I'm going to save that for the next podcast.
Yes, but what I'm saying is we will teach you how to do it well and properly. Yeah. But not everyone is. It's going to be the Wild West out there at some point if we see a major change towards it. So this is part of what we'll see. The major costs of employment go up. A lot of people move away from being employers. And then you're in the Wild West because it's now not regulated out there. And then what we'll see is the government bring in regulations, more regulations. And it's just a continuous cycle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the seesaw, or is it a roller coaster? But it's the seesaw, really, of something goes really well, and then there's something that changes that balances it back out again, and that's just business. And like you said, it's a game.
Yeah, it would change. But for me personally, I'm not going to go through the turbulence of swapping my business model to come back again. I'll just stick it out where I am.
Yeah, resilience is a good sort of outlook to have, isn't it, when it comes to business? I'm just going to stick it out.
Going to stick it out unless it goes horribly wrong with this model. I'm going to stick it out, and I hope that it will get easier for people. But I think what we're bringing up is you are going to have to get good at what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Louise.
Thank you, Diane.